For the next couple minutes, let's explore if there is any value in trying to reconcile historical claims of non-dual awareness, awakening, enlightenment, or the Buddha mind, with a modern scientific knowledge of the mind. When I'm intermittently exposed to historical teachings, the experience of enlightenment can sound like something mystical, dissolving into nature, merging with the universe, transcending the human. These descriptions are hard to reconcile with our current scientific framework. But when we look closely at how the mind actually works, the reality is both simpler and, in many ways, more accessible conceptually and more inviting from a contemporary standpoint. I do want to make clear that a spirit of grace towards these ancient thought leaders is helpful. Those who experienced the experiential shift but did not have the information we have today. Let's begin with the current understanding: experience as simulation. Modern neuroscience gives us a clear starting point. Every moment of your life, sights, sounds, sensations, the experience of this information is not actually a direct perception of the surrounding world. It's the brain's reconstructed simulation of incoming sensory signals. The eyes deliver light, but we don't experience photons. The ears deliver vibrations, but we don't experience air pressure waves. The nerves carry signals, but we don't experience electrochemical impulses. What you experience is the end product: a coherent, unified landscape generated inside the brain, a kind of snow globe, a full field of perception, moment by moment. Maybe explore this for the next few moments. If it's possible to look out towards the horizon, gently rest your gaze in that direction. Notice the whole visual field. Recognize where the edges of this visual field occur. And understand this: the brain is not seeing this information directly. What this is, experienced right now, is a recreated, generated model in the mind. This is the mind in motion, and any evidence of this being a recreation has been elegantly obscured. There is one characteristic of this simulation that I find absolutely striking, and was the thread that kept me coming back to meditation. It's that the simulation has evolved in such an elegant way that these intermittent steps are completely obscured in experience, to the degree that even after obtaining a conceptual understanding what's going on under the hood, still the obscurity persists in experience. And here's the key source of the obscurity. At some point in our evolutionary history, there must have been selection for a brain that overlaid an additional secondary layer: the sense of a subject on the edge of this simulation, a directional funneling to me behind the eyes, peering out into the world. This layer probably helped us survive, anchoring attention, sharpening agency, letting us track my body versus the environment. But it's not fundamental. It's an add-on. But we must always remember that selection favors reproduction, not well-being. As society moves ever closer to a solved world, it becomes obvious that individual well-being should be more in focus, as finding food has become less of a problem to solve. In non-dual awareness, that add-on experiential layer gradually loosens. Through progressively more time spent in this experiential shift, traditions infer that the contraction may even fall away altogether. To be clear, you don't lose experience. You simply recognize that what you are is the whole field, not the watcher on the edge. Here's where the overlap comes in. Historically, when teachers had this recognition, they didn't have neuroscience. They didn't know about cortical hierarchies, predictive processing, evolution, or the science behind sensory inputs. What they did know was what was experienced from the first person when the sense of being a separate self dissolved. They described it in the language they had: becoming one with nature, the drop merging into the ocean, realizing you are the universe, the Buddha mind, boundless, indivisible. From the first-person experience, these descriptions make sense. Although I would not corroborate any of these metaphysical claims, I can understand how an individual would confuse something magical for how much their experience changed. When the self dissolves, the boundary between me and world collapses, and everything seems to be arising as one seamless whole. But again, from a modern lens, we can see it's not metaphysical. It's not supernatural. It's the recognition that the brain simulation need not be divided in the first place. And furthermore, this division, the cramped sense of the self on the edge of experience, has baggage, the source of a significant percentage of daily suffering. So two framings, both point to the same recognition, that freedom, clarity of information, and peace are not primarily found by fixing life, but by seeing life as it actually is, without the add-on layer of a self on the edge. And here's the result. When the add-on of me here relaxes, thoughts still arise. Emotions still color the moment. Life still unfolds. But when the contraction is relaxed, the suffering, fueled by the constant background sense of being a self navigating the world, loosens. What remains is experience, as experience. The shift in view is not an understanding of these principles. Experience is literally seen differently as the flow of information, the mind in motion. That's the freedom. Thanks for exploring